Ladies and gentlemen, this is the area of Faliraki. By the way, Faliraki is a long beach of almost 5 kilometers, sandy beach. There are a lot of beautiful hotels, and actually it is mostly family resort in most of those. And among those hotels you have also Blue Sea here, which is another hotel that Saga operates, and we are going to pick up another 3 people, and then immediately we move to Lindos. They're going to listen the history of the island, and they will understand lots more things when they will go actually in the orientation tour on Sunday. For the rest of you already have heard that, and today actually we are going to talk about other interesting issues. By the way, the summertime shows its teeth in a very hard way today. In some parts of Greece in the very north it's raining, by the way. Here we are having a subtropical climate, I told you. Right now, outside, the temperature is 37. And inside we have 26, because this is actually the legal issue. We cannot have a difference more than 11 Celsius for healthy reasons. For example, you cannot have 50 outside and 25 inside, because by the time you get off, most probably you have a brain stroke or a heart attack or things like that. So you have to understand, this is the reason why usually we have to turn on only one doorway, because if we open both of them, all of the cold air will have to go outside. However, I have to tell you that we drive towards to Lindos, and because of the heat, as always we do, I will give you most of the information from inside the bus. From this point to reach Lindos, we need, ladies and gentlemen, something between 40 to 45 minutes driving. We have some kind of a distance of almost 42 kilometers from this point. And of course, I would like to tell you that you are sitting comfortably. We have the AC, I have the microphone. And I need to ask you something, and I hope that you are going to give me an honest answer. Do you like stories? Are you sure about that? Because you're in a big trouble. I have beautiful stories, and a lot of them. And we can start with something very important. Can you please tell me what is the name of the island we are? I was expecting that. I have received 2 answers in my ears. Some of you call it Rhodes and some of you call it Rhodos. So let's clear out this mess. Definitely the name of the island, it is not Rhodes. We have nothing to do to the Rhodes Scholarship. Officially the name of the island is Rhodos. And as a name, ladies and gentlemen, it comes out from a lot of different stories, but because you said that you love stories, I have chosen for you the best. One that comes out from the ancient Greek mythology, but it is also romantic. Do you like romantic stories? Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, that story goes like this. One day, the 12 Olympian gods of ancient Greece had decided to share the whole of the world in 12 parts. And Zeus, the master of the gods, had to do this kind of thing. But as he was sharing the world, he made a terrible mistake. He has forgotten one of the gods, whom? God of the sun, Ialyssos, or else you know him with the name Apollo. Why? Because he said in a very naive way that he didn't see him, even though he was shining up on the sky like a sun. I guess it was a very cloudy day, what else can I believe? The night came though, the sun set, and Apollo went back to Olympus, the highest mountain of Greece, where the 12 Olympian gods were living in. He found Zeus, and he asked for his share. Zeus apologized. He said, "I'm sorry, my friend, I have forgotten you, but don't worry, no problem." By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this phrase, we still use it a lot in Greece. No problem, we love it a lot. To cut the long story short, Zeus proposed to reserve the world from the beginning and to give him his son. But you know, in our story it is believed that Apollo denied the offer of Zeus because he thought that this kind of thing most probably would start a war among the gods. So he asked from Zeus something else as a present to make him feel better and happier. Before I tell you what he did, I have to ask you. Can you please tell me, ladies and gentlemen, what you could give to a man as a present to make him feel better and happier? Somebody said that? A wife? A woman? Who said that? All right. I want to thank you very much for your answer. And by the way, I have two reasons why I would like to thank you for. First of all, I don't know how many times you've been in Greece before, but with your answer you proved to me you are so close to the Greek mentality. Thank you very much for that. And the second reason why I would like to thank you for it is because you got me out of a big trouble. Let me explain what I mean. Do you have any idea what happens in this island every year during July, August? Beyond the heat. Hundreds of thousands, very young Europeans, they come here for a week or two holiday, anywhere from Europe. So imagine this bus full of very young people. I ask this question. Do you know what is always the answer I get back? A beer. Well, I wish it was the thing that you thought, but it is not. A beer. This is the answer that I always get. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, for me, this answer is pathetic. I don't understand the young generation at all. You see, for me, the beer is necessary after the woman. Or even better, the woman bringing the beer as well. But anyway, the right answer is a woman. But we have a serious problem in our story. He was a god. He couldn't give him any simple woman as a present. And he couldn't give him any goddess either, because a god cannot own a god. That's why he decided to give him as a present something in between. For God's sake, when I say something in between, don't misunderstand me. For those days, something in between, it was something more elegant and nice. And that was a nymph. Do you have any idea what nymphs are? Let me help you. Mythologically speaking always, nymphs were the daughters of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Extremely beautiful ladies that they were living under the sea, the rivers or their lakes. They were always dressed in white and they were always virgins. I know, worldwide, there is a large misunderstanding about the word nymph, and that mainly started since the medieval times. Just need to remind you that during those days, in Europe we had a lot of wars. And imagine that the soldiers for years and years, there were cities that it was built between the 16th to the 15th century before Christ. But what I want you to remember today, it is that that city, ladies and gentlemen, it was always a very strong naval city-state. Imagine it was the only one from this island that even has participated in the War of Troy. The highest point of its existence goes between the 6th to the 5th century before Christ, where in Lindos, ladies and gentlemen, there was a king with the name Cleobulos. Cleobulos was one of the 7 sages, one of the 7 wisest people of the ancient world. He was reigning in tyranny for almost 47 years. He enlarged Lindos as of the half of the island down on the south, and he was adored by his people. We estimate today that at that time, as a city-state, Lindos used to have 60 to 70,000 people. But I don't know if you knew it, Lindos becomes more famous in the next century, between the 5th to the 4th century before Christ. Did you know that the people of Lindos of those days were the very first people on this planet that they have invented the maritime law, meaning the law of the sea? Is this important? It is extremely important if I tell you that the nowadays international maritime law that we still use, it is based upon the one of ancient Lindos. So you realize what is the contribution of Lindos in humanity. Do you have any idea what is Lindos of today? The answer is quite shocking. We're talking about a little village of almost 700 people. But in that village, ladies and gentlemen, all of the houses are very old. They have been built between the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th century. All of the village, it is protected by the Ministry of Culture. We are not allowed to build in Lindos any longer. All of the houses have been built by people who used to be captains and sailors. They were sailing all around Mediterranean. They were bringing their money in the brilliant architecture of the Aegean Sea. That's why Lindos looks a lot like Santorini or Mykonos. 18 of those houses are called captain houses and actually are the richest of all. But generally, every house in Lindos, more or less, has been dressed down on the floors or outside in the yards with beautiful mosaics made out of black and white pebbles taken from the sea. And they use beautiful patterns and designs of the sea life. And it is a typical technique of mosaics that we use a lot in this island and the rest of the islands around here, and we call it Faliraki. Above the village, there is a huge rock, and up to the top of the rock, we have the ancient Acropolis. Do you have any idea what is the literal meaning of the word Acropolis? It comes out from two different Greek words. Acro means the edge. I remind you another Greek word that you use. Acrobat. Acrobato means I walk on the edge. And polis is the city. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, from the word polis, we produce a lot of other words today, like policy, politics, politicians, police, the security of the city, or even synthetic words like metropolis, megapolis, cosmopolis, and a lot of things like that. So the literal meaning of the word Acropolis is the edge of a city. But for those days, the edge of a city, it was always a high place, but not necessarily the highest one. Certainly, it was a difficult place for the enemy to reach. It was always surrounded by walls, and it could be used mostly in case of emergency, in case of war. So that means that every ancient city used to have an acropolis, and not only Athens. And you know, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this little bus.
Good. Hello.
Hello.
Cherry strawberries.
Allora dopo finisco. Perché poi risposti da una
Une heure et quart, ce sera fini, mangez et tout.
Those who need
right up on the donkey.
Anyone like to ride the donkeys to Acropolis?
Banking on the donkey. Have a sheep.
Sponges will be cheaper in
Yeah, I think everything's going to be dear. That's what I think. Even the jewellery we looked at yesterday.
Thank you.
Men där har vi ju modeller.
Stop over here by the shade, please. You stand by the shade, please, here. Saga, we stand by the shade here, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen. In front of us, we have a building that I would like you to use it for orientation reasons. This is the Byzantine Orthodox Church of the Dormition of Virgin Mary. It is the only operating active church of the village. It was built during the 13th century with awesome frescoes of the 17th century. The only problem, you are not allowed to take photos, you are not allowed to dress in a casual way like we are in summer, you have to have a special coat, and it is closed anyway now. So, the reason why I'm just telling you that, I want you to remember the big bell tower. So from everywhere you can see to know how to orientate yourselves. And when you come over here, you have to know that you turn on the left to find the square. Alright? It's easy. And by the way, I'm telling you all this also because tomorrow we will have the chance to be guided in an authentic Byzantine Orthodox church in the middle of the forest with no special dress code, and you can take photos all the time, alright? And we are going to be guided. But this is actually the church of the village, just a big bell tower to know how to orientate yourselves. And we are going to move that way to cross the village, but if any one of you is interested to go to the Acropolis, you go that way, and the same way you go, the same way you turn back. But for the sunports, way this way, please. Ja, guys, dat is het terug. Dus dat is een multi ice cream, weer een koffie. Ja. Why some medicine? Saving Finland. Everybody can Ladies and gentlemen, here now we split into two cover both sides of the walls and we leave a corridor empty in the middle, so we'll stop here in the shade. So, just keep yourself on the side walls, both ways. We leave a little corridor empty in the middle so the people can pass through. We cover both walls. Keep yourself a bit on the side. So we have the rest of the people passing by. All the way to the shade. We are going to stop here both ways on the wall. Both sides on the wall, please. Cover both walls, also down there. There's shade over there. We have to leave a corridor in the middle empty so the people can pass through. Excellent. Actually, this is the first stop to talk. As you realized, ladies and gentlemen, I tried to take you through a place that there are no shops. Not only because of the shopping, but because now you can understand the real architecture of the village. You can see the real color of that. By the way, all of the houses for many centuries were built like this, with the sandstone. And by the way, it is a perfect camouflage, the perfect disguise. Imagine the village that is located behind the huge rock of the Acropolis, and with this kind of a color, if any pirate ship or enemy was sailing away, they could not see it, because it is hidden very well and also the same color. However, ladies and gentlemen, the Acropolis, it is only when you have a massive attack from an enemy, but I told you when we were coming that most of the people used to be captains and sailors. That means that men were sailing away for months, even a year. So who stays back? The wives, the children, and the eldest. So that means, ladies and gentlemen, that these people had to defend the village in case the pirates would show. That's why the houses are built in such a way, and imagine all of those that had this kind of color, with high yards, big walls, narrow alleys and streets like this, the small roads, and they are like a labyrinth. Why? To split the force of the attackers of the pirates, and they will hit them from above to kill them. And if at any case the enemy would break one of the doorways to enter inside, they were jumping from the one door into the other, and they will keep defending them. So the whole of the architecture of the village, it was also to defend themselves. By the way, this is one of the 18 captain houses, one of the rich houses of those days. When we say captain house, imagine that captain is not only a captain, it is also the owner of the ship at that time, and they were becoming very rich. And by the way, they were bringing a lot of furniture and items from all around Europe. Some of those are protected by the Ministry of Culture, some of those they have been turned to shops, some of those they have been turned to coffee bars. This specifically the 16th century, and it is protected by the Ministry of Culture, with beautiful furniture inside. However, I have to tell you that during the 17th century, in most of the islands of the Aegean, they started, I don't know, anyway, I don't want to tell. Yeah, thank you. You see, distractions, temptations. Anyway, I will try to concentrate. They started, ladies and gentlemen, to paint all of the, in the islands of the Aegean, the houses with this kind of white color. By the way, this is not white color. This is limestone asbestos. You know, it's a kind of an isolated material, reflects the heat of the sun.
Have you been in the pool?
Indoors too.
Oh, the indoor.
There's outside the bar.
All right.
Now you come out the